You're listening to the Thoroughbred podcast, an elite business leadership podcast.
Purebred hustlers, baby. What's going on, guys? John Wentworth here, Thoroughbred podcast. And I always ask Christian to play that intro for me, even behind the scenes, just so well, that's my boy, Tony Strozier. So I hear his voice, I'm ready to rock, and I'm with my other boy, my friend. I can't even look at him without darn crying.
Oh, you said that the last time. Come on now.
It's just true, baby. So I'm just going to look over here. But man, Todd Warda, right? An elite leader. You can remove the word business. You can add father, friend, husband, business. You can add that back in there now. But he's so much more than just an elite business leader. But, leadership is way more than just business, right?
Well, thank you. Yes, I agree. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for thank you for coming over from the other hall and being on our show. But Todd Warda, real estate agent here with our group. Also, as I mentioned, friend, faith follower, just a great guy. And so it's going to be fun. We're going to do this podcast. We're going to do another video talking about a little bit more on the business side. But I guess I don't really know where I'm going to start because I never planned this.
Sure.
So let's just jump in with...
Oh, this ought to be good. This will be fun.
Remember when we played hockey together in the locker room in night? No, I'm just playing.
Oh, we wouldn't tell those stories.
No, we're not telling it. I'd be on the short end of that stick.
We've been together a long time. We've been through a lot of life's great moments.
Oh, no doubt.
Ups and downs.
And here's Christian, my 20-year-old, and Todd's like, gosh, remember when we used to coach him and your son Josh in hockey?
Yeah, and at the end of the day, I think we've produced great kids.
100%.
And that's why we're here, right?
Yes.
Is to pass on those traits and watch them flourish and become great men.
You mean it's not just make more money?
Heck no, it's not about money.
I didn't tell you this, but I got a text from Stacy today, like this long, and it's just so fulfilling, And I think when we're recognized, it's more than the fulfillment. It's like, so the text was great, but what it really said to me is that she's feeling me pouring into her still 10 years later.
Oh, sure.
You know what I mean? And that's what's so powerful. So tell us about, from a leadership standpoint, right? A leader being, Todd and I have this relationship where he can call me and say, John, I think you need to look at what you're doing in this area or this arena or this category. I'll give you an example. We were out door knocking one day and somebody got upset, right? And I'm like, screw them. And Todd's like, John, you can't do that. You got to be thinking about what people feel and what people think. And I'm like, oh, man. And I think the difference is leaders can be checked.
Sure.
Right? Ego can't be.
No, I agree. Yeah.
And so giving you the platform or I'm an open door and you always know it, like you can check me anytime. But you allow that also.
I absolutely allow that because, even the last 2 years, just seeing the growth in this organization, I think we all can achieve so much more. So much more growth. We're all Christians, and I'm redeemed, right? But it's when I'm learning lately that if there's a pain point in your life, God's putting His finger on it for a reason.
Oh, 100%.
So everything that I'm trying to doing and you're doing here is just elevating us as people.
Well, and so look, as he's telling me this, I'm like, okay, forget about the podcast. We're just going to talk, right?
Sure.
And that's the damn podcast. And I'm probably going to swear a little bit because I get fired up and I'm trying, But what you said is so true. The pain points, like, a lot of the intimacy behind me.
Sure.
And so, just being in Nashville a couple weeks ago at the Sheplack event, there were two big things that really hit home for me. And it's just the same thing you're talking about. It's that willingness to reflect, the willingness to, yes, we're doing so well, but we know we can do so much more. And that growth you're talking about isn't about sales numbers. That will come with it, right?
Sure.
If we do the right thing and we work hard, you're gonna sell more real estate. You're gonna serve more people. But I think it's just that internal growth that we're all striving for. And we were just talking before we went on, like, I don't know what's the date today. It's February 6th, and last night, what did we count? Seven of our team members were in the gym, different gyms, some in the same gym, some in different gyms, but 7 of them in the gym last night at like 8 o'clock at night.
Well, that's because of what's being built here as a team. You know what I mean? This work family has created this accountability that people want to do better, and they almost want to. It's not a competition, but they want to do it for their teammates. Well, they want to be the best version of themselves.
Exactly.
Right?
And having some friendly competition isn't bad either.
No, not at all. Right.
But being in, and I'm going to lead with this, and then I'm going to ask you, what was that moment for you? So for me, I mean, you know me, man. I'm on this journey all the time, right? Like, how do I improve? How do I get better? And sometimes, frankly, I'm too hard on myself, you know? And my wife tells me that. She's like, dang, man, you got to go easy on yourself. But I just... You know, I feel like every time I get better for me, I get better for 50 other people.
Sure.
You know, so there's more to it, but really you break it down like, okay, Christian's 20. You know, I look back at my parenting of him and I'm like, wow, he must be blessed by the Lord. You know, I mean, and I'm not beating myself up over it. I did what I could do at that time, but I could have done way more. I just wasn't there yet as a person, right? You know, whether it was drinking or whether it was running the roads or, you know, pouring into work more over everything else. But then I also look at, okay, well, all the work that we do now is to get to where we are so that we can, you know, now I've got two children that I parent differently.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, but being in Nashville, there were two things that were said to me that were really impactful. One was when I was at lunch with Heath Evans, right? And we were at lunch like this. And we sat down, and as soon as and you know, we've spoke on the phone a lot. We shared a little bit of our stories. But as soon as we sat down, he put his hand in my hand. He goes, "Tell me about your mom." And I'm like, man.
Powerful. He just...
Yeah.
That's the Holy Spirit, just knowing something needs to be said. Yeah.
Well, and, you know, I had just given my speech. He wasn't there for that because he flew in that day. But and so I just started telling him, and I'm crying. My chicken tasted salty. You know, I mean, just tears like mad. And... you know, and in our conversations with him, I tell him that, you know, I'm struggling with drinking. And struggling with drinking isn't like, oh, I'm getting blown out every day. It's like, okay, I don't want to drink today, and then I still do. And even if it's one, well, then I didn't do what I set out to do in the morning. And I said to him, I said, you know, I'm so sick of thinking about it. Like, it weighs on me. Like, I'm thinking about it. It's driving me crazy. And he put his hand in my hand again, and he said, quit worrying about that and focus on healing your heart.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, whoa.
That's powerful, right?
Yeah, it was, but it was also clarity, because it was like, okay, so this is a leadership podcast, and we're talking about healing our hearts, but you know what? Leaders are willing to do what you said earlier, find the pain point and go right at it.
Oh, for sure. And, you know, I heard this a long time ago, wounded people wound.
Ooh.
Healed people heal.
Amen.
So when your heart is healed, all of a sudden you're healing the other people in the organization or in your lives, and you're not even realizing it.
Well, and you know, my wife, I shared that story with her, and she's like, you know, but don't strive so hard for that you're dissatisfied too, because you may never heal that completely. Like, it's never going to go away, you know, but it's, and so I don't know, Christian, here, you're going to do a little live. I don't know, you know, where that line is, but I tell you what, that gave me a lot of clarity. And then I always think about, and I talk about with my wife, is the struggle that I have with Rocco, our son, right? Not Dahlia. You know, we're straight. And Rocco and I are straight too, but there's always a struggle because he's a little shit just like I am, just like I was. And Christian was never that way. Christian was like Dahlia. You know, hey, tie your shoes. Okay. Rocco, tie your shoes, and he throws the shoe out the window. You know, that's just who he is. And so, you know, learning to embrace who he is, and he talked about that too. You know, he said you've got to go share with those kids that you're still hurting. You don't have to tell them why. Well, you got to share with them that you're still hurting, and that sometimes you're projecting that on others, and tell them. You know, share a little bit of what happened so that they can start to have empathy for you. I'm like, wow, how is a 9-year-old going to have empathy? But it's so true. I sat down and talked to Rocco. I mean, I took him in the closet. I had to basically handcuff him to the wall to get him to sit still for 5 minutes. But I did. I shared a little bit of this, and it was funny because over the next few days, there were these moments, like we were playing basketball, you know, and I twisted my ankle and dropped for a second, and he was empathetic for, like, I don't want to say the first time because he's full of empathy in his heart, but it's just usually I don't see it, you know. And he was empathetic. Hey, are you okay, Dad?
Yeah.
So that was interesting. The second thing, and I don't want to go on and on, but I think this goes back to what you said, attacking these pain points, because our past is in our future, right? Sheplak always tells us that.
Oh, for sure.
Our past is in our future. And so, people always say, well, forget about it. No, you got to go back and look at it. But the second thing was, when we were talking about, this thing with Rocco, I said to Sheplak, I said, I shared something with him, and he said, bro, I know. And I said, I gotta do this for Rocco. And he said, you gotta do it for Delia, because Delia's gonna choose you in 10 years. And I'm like, oh shit.
You mean the person she wants to be with?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And so then it was like, oh wow. So, those two moments every day I think about, you know what I mean? And so it's just one day at a time. And, we're at 2 weeks, and we're just going to keep on rocking. And I don't want to make it about that, but
but I think you got to remember, like, I'm one of the people in your life that has seen the transformation. I've seen all the things that you're talking about. I mean, since Christian was just born. Yeah. So it's really, and I say this to you all the time, it's really amazing watching God work in your life, and how God has worked in our lives and brought us back together.
Yeah.
And when you were at your lowest, I was there for some reason, even to give you a little bit of advice here and there, and then all of a sudden my world drops. I'm at my lowest, and who's there to pick me up and bring me back? So it's been awesome to watch, and God is good all the time.
No doubt. I think one thing that's really interesting with Todd and I, like, Todd and I have this amazing relationship, but I don't hang out with him every day of the week. I mean, he's here every day of the week, but we're at different stages of our life, right? I mean, his kids are grown and gone. I got a 9 and a 10-year-old.
Right.
You know what I mean? Right. So it's like, but there's never a moment where I know he's not one of my best friends. And I think that is important too, because friends, people put this word on friends, and maybe that's what we'll call this show, friends, right? But
comeback.
But people always talk about, oh, you're only going to have one true friend in your life, and I'm like, that is the lamest thing I've ever heard, and it's what society sells us on, right? And here's what I kind of my take on that is that, if all you're thinking about is what can you get out of a relationship or out of people, then you're going to limit yourself.
Sure.
And vice versa. If all you're thinking about is pouring yourself into everybody else, you're going to end up with a lot of great friends. Because I'm blessed, man. I mean, I could name 10 people that are highly, highly, highly impactful in my life that I consider great friends.
Oh, same here. And another thing is, I think that when you talk about these friends, like, I feel like I poured into Christian's life, and I feel like you've poured into Josh's life.
Yeah.
And I think it takes a village to do that. Like, it takes that friendship to understand that, hey, it's okay for you to call my son out because I trust you.
Exactly. But because if I'm going to trust you to call me out, then I'm going to trust you to call him out.
Sure.
Tell us, tell us about your journey in real estate, I guess. I mean, because that's leadership. You've been a big, you started out unlicensed. You've been here how many years? Do you know, actually?
I do, actually. Remember, I was here as a photographer for a year.
I know. I was giving you shit every time you took pictures.
So it'll be, as an agent, it'll be 8 years now. Wow. But, almost 9.5 as part of the team. Yeah, so... It's been fun.
Unbelievable.
It's been a lot of fun.
So Todd started as a photographer. Well, you've always been. I mean, that was your business. That was your passion.
Yep.
And you're back taking photos, which is awesome.
Yeah, I enjoy it. I'm just doing it for fun now, just nature and stuff like that. We went to Yellowstone and I had a great time. But no, I don't want to do any photos for people or homes anymore. Thank you very much.
Well, why would you? You're selling $10 million a year in real estate. But that journey, so starting as a brand new agent, and as you said, going through a trying time in your life personally, and I'm like, okay, you're taking photos, that's great, but I think you could do so much more. Like, I mean, you should be selling real estate, and so that whole conversation ensued, and it's always scary for anyone starting in real estate.
Oh, I know you remember. I took a huge leap of faith. I mean, when I sold the business, I quit cold turkey.
Yeah.
Like, all right, let's just do this.
Yeah.
I don't know I don't even know how to do it, but let's try it. And it's just that was the faith that I had in you, and I think that was a God moment too. Like, trust in Him. Like, we are supposed to be together for a reason, and I'm so thankful to be part of the organization, but also I enjoy so much watching. These people that you're bringing, like a Sarah Minter, serving at the laundry. Sarah didn't even know how to open a computer and use it.
She never had one.
She literally did not know. She said, "What should I go buy? Go buy a MacBook Pro." Okay, how do I open it?
Next day,
how do
she
I
bought
turn it on? And all of a sudden, she's making more money than she ever thought she'd
Yeah.
make. And it's not about the money. She's
Right.
helping people too. But transforming lives is what I love watching.
Yeah. There's that fine line between money, because we talk about, money's not important. It is important. It just can't be like, if your end all is more money, you're never going to be satisfied. You're never going to be fulfilled. And so where do you find fulfillment, I think, is another really important thing. And I think we all are searching for that in in one way or another, but you've got to find fulfillment in, we find it, I think, fulfillment and contentment, two different things, but I think contentment is really what we should search because that's happiness.
Sure.
And we should all want to be happy, but there's never been enough money in the world to keep a marriage together.
Amen.
Right? So,
Amen.
So it's not like money isn't the fulfillment part. It's the serving, it's the giving, it's the helping others. It's all of the things that you've done along the way, because through your growth, you were a big part of us growing this organization, we wouldn't be where we are today without that. And so tell us just a little bit about that journey. You got into real estate, you started selling. It was different times then, right? It was just like you, me, and Stacy and Brooke.
Yeah. It was, at that time, it was, buyers.
Yeah.
And now you're running, it seems like you're running from 7 in the morning to 10 at night in the summertime, showing as many homes as you can.
Yep.
And trying to serve as many people as you can. And at that time, there was a lot of inventory, and I felt like we just, we exploded. It just serving people and doing the right thing. And it wasn't about, you'd have to almost tell a person this I don't think this is the right house for you.
Yeah.
And they really respected that. So we're not, they're here just to sell them the home. We're here to help them make a good decision.
Yeah, 100%. So along that journey, though, because what I want to get into, which you'll try to avoid because you're humble, is you played a big role in this business, and a lot of that is going back to the friendship, right? Because you have a servant's heart, and you like to pour into things even without being asked. And because I trust you and love you, I'm like, go for it. You know what I mean? And it was great. And I feel like there's always these ebbs and flows in life, and there's always these ebbs and flows in business. And so, Todd's gone from serving a little bit of a management role while selling, serving a little bit of this role while selling, like doing a lot of little one-offs, if you will, right?
Sure.
But also recruiting, also some marketing stuff, like a lot of different things. And I think that's really, and then he's like, I just want to sell.
Yeah, I think there came a point where, I think you have to know who you are.
Amen.
I think that's very important, where your strengths are and where your weaknesses are, and how you can best serve the organization. I think that's really, you have to step back and say, what's best for the organization? Because I feel like God would bless me either way, but he wants you to make a decision.
Yeah, no doubt.
Right?
No
so
doubt.
you can't teeter-totter because it's not fair to the organization.
Well, it's not fair to yourself either, right? Because then you're torn, and one of the things that I'm really trying to get to as we build to this next step, having to let somebody go, and now we've replaced with the right right person as of now.
Yep.
But is like he's like, what do you want me to do the first 2 weeks? I go, nothing.
Be a sponge.
What do you mean? I'm like, I don't want you to do anything except just be here, listen, talk to people, learn, pay attention, like nothing. Mm-hmm. And now we're 2 weeks in, and I think you got some shit to do now.
Time to work.
But so through those ebbs and flows, businesses go through those ebbs and flows, and our lives go through those ebbs and flows. What is it that you think from a leadership standpoint, right? Because whether you're leading a company or leading your family or leading the church or whatever you're leading. Everybody here is a leader in some impact.
Sure.
An agent that's only been here 2 months, they might be the leader to the person walking in the door right now.
Yeah.
So in your opinion, what do you feel is, the traits that people need to be focused on in their leadership?
Well, I think you have to love yourself, okay? You have to be confident in yourself. The people that second guess themselves or don't have a lot of confidence, it shows. It really does show. And you might not know all the answers, but I think the most important thing is lead by example. And if you don't know the answer, find it and be honest. And I think that's really impactful today. It's amazing. You hear it all the time. Hey, thanks for calling me back.
Oh my gosh!
Thanks for calling me back. Like, why wouldn't I call you back? Just there's some good agents and there's some bad agents, unfortunately. And
well, that's anything. Probably some school teachers that don't want to do it anymore. You know what I mean?
So I just try to lead by example. I do lead with my heart.
Yeah.
I feel like if God puts me in front of a person, I'm there for a reason, and I need to help that person. And that's kind of how I ran the business.
So when you say lead from the heart, people, in fact, in Nashville, when I spoke, I said this. I said, I do lead from my heart, and has that cost me money? Yeah. And I'm okay with it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Because I think at the end of the day, again, if you're focused solely on money, and money matters. Again, don't get me wrong. Like, I'd rather make 6 figures than 50 grand. But 50 grand's a great living to somebody else too, So I don't want to diminish that. But it's knowing that we're pouring into people first. Does it cost us money at sometimes? Probably, from a business standpoint, but I'm not in it for today or tomorrow. You know what I mean? I'm in it for 10 years from now. When Stacy and Brooke, think about that. Stacy and Brooke have been here almost 10 years as salaried employees, and they're going to retire someday.
From here.
From freaking Wentworth Real Estate Group. That's crazy.
That is great.
It's unbelievable. In fact, you're gonna.
Yeah.
So it's like,
and it's tomorrow. Just kidding.
Oh shit! Severance package.
No, I got a lot more life in me.
Yeah.
We have 11 grandchildren. The 11th one was just born on Monday.
Man, congratulations.
So, and I was thinking about this. I don't know why I'm thinking about this, but you were talking about your ebbs and flows of your life, and I believe God redeems us, right? And He gives us 7 times greater than what we had, right? So you had a very bad experience as a child and upbringing with your parents. However, look at He's giving us a chance to redeem what you didn't have.
Yeah.
And I think about that from my ups and downs in my life when I was at my lowest, and now all of a sudden, I'm single.
We're single. You're not single now.
I'm a single man at that time, thinking this is great. I have no one to be responsible for. And He laughs and says, you wait.
You're right.
And all of a sudden, now we have this enormous family that we're blessed and we're pouring into each other. And it's just amazing to watch how I now have an opportunity to
have an impact on all of them.
Every one of them.
Yeah.
So
but that's challenging.
It's a redo.
That's got to be challenging too, though, having 11 grandchildren.
It is for sure. For sure.
You can look at it from that different lens though now and say, hey, okay, God's put this on my plate for a reason, and I can either go, oh my gosh, now there's 11 kids at my house right now, or I could say, thank God, there's 11 kids at my house right now.
Sure. And sometimes I do the other opposite. I just want to tell you,
hey,
I do.
You're human.
Right. But my wife, bless her heart, she really teaches me a ton, and she's just been a blessing. So
yeah, your wife is special. She's very I don't even know the right word to describe her. If the listeners, like if I painted a picture for you, you've never seen her, soft, gentle, spiritual, and direct would be the words that I would use. And she's about 5.
She's 5 foot, yeah.
Oh, she's 5 foot.
She's about 5 foot, yeah. But
she's about.
But I tell you what, she has such a heart for calling you out, and she doesn't.
But she can do it without calling you out. You know what I mean?
But she's calling you out.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But you're like, oh, you're right. I am an idiot.
Yeah. Like,
thank you.
She's just such a good communicator.
Yeah.
And I think that if you just sat down and listened to her like you have, she, hey, I got a word for you. And we're both like blown away by the word. I think that's just God putting 2 people together that need to be together.
Don't you think, here, look, we're talking about the Thoroughbred podcast, right? Leadership, being an elite leader in business. But, the more we learn about leadership, and we're studying it all the time, and we have coaches and so on and so forth, the more I learn about leadership, it has less really to do with really leading almost. It almost has more to do with, you lead by example, you lead by doing, you lead by facilitating, by helping, by providing, but it almost feels like there's more leadership in getting out of the way.
From yourself.
From yourself.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
And also letting other people just do their thing. And it's like, how does leadership come out of reflection? Well, you go back, you look at it, you face it, and then you grow from it. And then you get to a point, and you go back and you attack the next pain point, and you go back and you attack the next thing, and then you everybody wants, again, we're so taught to hide from it, suppress it, take this fucking pill. You know what I mean? Like, society has us so brainwashed, and I'm sorry, I'm swearing, but that I'm passionate about that. I just feel like it's so. I think a really important thing, like for our listeners, if you really want to find that contentment and that fulfillment, you've got to be able to look inward.
Oh, amen.
Right? You've
Amen.
got to be able to embrace the internal instead of the external. Right? Yeah, we've got on nice clothing. Well, we're going to go into somebody's home. I mean, that's out of respect. Would I rather be here in a t-shirt? Sure. Right? But the external, our society is so focused on the external.
Yeah, I agree. And
I've been there. I mean, I pulled a friggin' horse trailer with an Escalade. I couldn't even afford the damn thing. You know what I mean?
yeah, I mean, it's not about the shiny cars and the shiny house, but it is about a healthy heart and a healthy family.
No, there you go. So people we know, right, whether they want to admit it or not, if they're listening, they're like, oh, yeah, that's me. Because it's all of us at some point. And I think that's something that we're always making sure we're checking is our ego. Because I always say ego's a sneaky sucker, man. When you least expect it, all of a sudden you got ego. You know what I mean? And so how do we protect that? How do you protect that, right? Because you could say, oh, I'm Todd Warda. Fucking, I can do anything. In fact, this guy got offered to work at a different real estate company for free. Pay nothing. Just work here for free. So what keeps you on your path?
You.
Oh, well.
The culture here. I mean, I trust you. I trust what's going on here. I want to be part of it because I know we're helping people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I never wanted my name on the sign. I want to be able to help
either.
people.
I mean, no shit.
I want to be in the background. I've always wanted to be kind of in that background, but I always felt like I could lead by example.
Yeah, and you
know?
do. I mean, every day you show up. I was thinking about this the other day when we talked about, hey, are you available tomorrow? And I'll kind of let you tell the story because I tell it all the time, and then I'm like, you don't ever really respond. I'm like, what am I, full of shit here or what? But I mean, there was that time, right, where I'm like, okay, Todd said, man, I feel like I'm working hard, but I'm not going to the next level. And what was that big change for you?
Well, I think at that time, I've always been, you're going to like this, I've always been a morning person, right? I like to wake up in the morning. I feel energized. I feel ready to go. I like to get in the office, get as much done as I can. And then I feel trapped if I'm in the office. Like I got to get out. So it's really something I was just getting into the office for maybe 7:30 to 9 and thinking, okay, good. Now I got to go talk to some people and I'd be out and about. But it didn't seem like I was living up to my full potential. And that's when I think you recognize, like, listen, you can't just come in for 2 hours in the morning and then go. You need to buckle down and stay in the office a little more. And I think that's where really what changed inside the office is learning the other side of the business. And I think that's really important for agents to do.
Well, I agree. I mean, that's one of the things as we're growing now we're talking about is, as these agents come in fact, and here's another example of Todd being able to come to me and saying, hey, what do you think about this? And I'm like, yeah, that sounds like a good ass idea. But whether it's showing agents or ISA, one of the things that even McKenna said, because McKenna now is with us as an agent and she worked here last year as she was going to school, not as she was going to school, during the summer. She went to school at U of M in Arbor, so she was downstate. But she's like, man, I learned so much sitting in with Brooke and Stacy.
Sure.
The other side of the business, right? And so I think that would be an important role. And so, from a leadership standpoint, if you're running a business, we always feel like, okay, we have to fill this role, hire this role. But I feel like, and same with Tom, we want to hire them, and then right away we want to squeeze the juice. But I feel like, man, what if you didn't hire them for 3 weeks? You'd still would have been okay. So now you're paying them for 3 weeks. So what? Don't throw them in the fire. Like, let them, I feel like a new agent now sitting with Brooke and Stacy for 3 days would be super powerful.
Oh, for sure. I think any organization, if you start somebody and they do every job in the organization for 1 week, can you imagine what they would be in 10 years? Just they'd know all aspects of the business and they'd be so valuable to the organization. And I think about Mindy.
Yeah,
She's done so many things in the organization, and now when everyone's on vacation, she can fill in almost any spot and thrive.
Well, she's going to have to because somebody let both of our admins go on vacation at the same time.
Yeah, I don't know who that would be.
Yeah, me either. It wasn't me.
Yeah.
But
it was Tom.
Oh, shoot. How are we doing on time, Chris? So...
50 minutes left.
No, how long have we been going? I got all day left. I can talk to this guy all day long. So I always want to provide value to our listeners, right?
Sure.
And I think, so often because we're in real estate, everyone thinks this is just about real estate, but man, life. I always feel like if we can get life dialed in, our business is going to take off. So as you've gone through your journey, because we're all on a journey, we're still on a journey.
Amen.
Yeah. What are just some of? I mean, I know Jesus is a big part of your life, but go a layer deeper than that. What are the foundations that you stand on each day so that you know who you are, right? Because I think again, finding that contentment and that fulfillment we talk about inward instead of external, right? So how do you do that besides just saying, well, Jesus is my foundation?
I think that for me, the last 5 years in my life, I've learned so much about what it is to be a man, what it is to be a husband, and what it is to be a father. And I think those three things, if you can do those three things well, everything else is kind of fall underneath it. And so that's your foundation, right? Like my wife is supposed to be my number one.
Right.
And I'm supposed to put her first. And I haven't done that every time, right? And those are lessons that I'm learning every single day of the week.
Yeah.
And she'll tell you that I'm learning them, right? But she's helping me. So if you learn to put somebody first and you learn to be a good husband and what that really means, like I never even knew what love meant. And I was married for 15 years before. When you understand what love truly means.
So tell us what it is.
You put the other, you don't matter anymore. You die to self.
But what about me?
You die to self.
That's tough.
It's so hard
That's
as a
tough.
man and as a leader to do that. But you die to self.
I don't know what I'm not dying, bro. I don't know what that means.
And sometimes you listen to understand, not to respond, not to try to fix it.
Just to listen.
Just listen. Because sometimes that's what you're there for, is just to listen. She should be able to listen to us, or she should be able to talk and vent without judgment.
Well, it's what Cheplak always teaches us, right? Be a witness, not a judge. I just said that to Ronnie this morning. He came to the gym with us 2 of the last 3 days, and I put a video of him on Facebook, of course, because if you're with me, you're going to be on Facebook. And even though you say you don't like it, I know you do. But why? Because it's important. Because you know what? When it's out there, you're willing to say it. You're willing to reflect on it. Like people say, "Why are you on Facebook all the time?" Like, aren't you afraid of what people think? No. Like I am who I am. I always say this, right? I don't care what people think, and then I go, well, I care, but it's just I am who I am, and if that doesn't jive with you, that's okay.
Sure.
I care what people think, obviously, I would, I'd be out of business. So that because we talk about this, right? I mean, some people in our group, we get deep in relationships with them. They come to us with some deep stuff, and we shared this with somebody not too long ago, and we're like, you got to understand your relationship isn't about you. It's about her.
Yes.
It's not about what can you get out of it, what do you need. It's not, none of that matters. Just pour into her, pour into her, pour into her, and then things will start to come back to you. And I use an example of the gym, right? So people will go to the gym, they make their New Year's resolutions, and they go to the gym for a couple of weeks, and they don't see the results that they thought, and they stop. You got to keep going. And same thing with a relationship. You got to keep going and going and going. Every single day, especially when you're thinking about it. And I think that's what you're talking about these last few years, these last few months. It always gets a little bit better, just being so reflective of it and saying, what can I do better today than I did yesterday?
Sure. And I think it's obeying what he's asking you to do. He's putting you in a position. Some people not even recognize that they're in the position because he wants you there. But once you sit back and realize, you put me here, you believe in me, let's do this. Let's do this the right way. And if I always think about that, why is this a pain point for me? You must want this off me. You want the chisel. You might this has got to come off me because it's not of you. That happens every day.
I think here's a great example of leadership, right? We stand here with the cross above us, knowing we're not perfect Christians, and we're cool with that because there aren't any. But I think, here's leadership. We believe in this. We don't try to make anyone else believe in it. But it is who we are. And we both had different journeys to get there. But we put it on a billboard. We're not afraid of it. We talk about it. We're not afraid of it. People join our group and they're like, oh my gosh, are they going to make me pray? Nope. You know what I mean? But when we would lead meeting with prayer and we just do those, same thing with taking the kids to school. I pray with them every morning, and half the time they're screwing off and acting crazy. And then that day that I forget to do it, they're like, Dad, you forgot to pray.
Yeah.
So you're doing these things over time, and you don't realize always the impact they have. And that goes back to the external. We want that immediate gratification. I mean, hell, we're in America. We want stuff before we even pay for it. So we're taught to seek this immediate gratification, but the truth is, the true wins, the things that really matter and that are lasting, take time, and they take a strong foundation, and they take the micro things you do no one's going to go to the gym for 2 weeks and get fit.
No.
You know what I mean? I mean, it literally takes a year. I mean, it takes time.
Absolutely.
Same thing with a relationship.
Oh, there's so much to learn every single day. And I think that we just have to remember that it's okay to fail. It's okay to say, oh my gosh, I was totally wrong saying that's not supposed to happen, and I'm sorry. It's okay to say that.
Yeah.
But so many men don't want to say that. Their pride,
Well,
they're always worried about right or wrong or what's the truth.
that goes back to society, though. The men got to be the strongest and the toughest, and so on and so forth. And it was funny because somebody said the other day to our group, what makes you men so strong inside of what you're doing is that you're in touch with your feminine side. And we're all like, huh?
Yes.
What's that mean?
Another brilliant moment by him, right?
And we're like, oh. And then he explained it, and we're like, oh. That's true, And I, one of the things that I think is really important, and again, I'm trying to bring value to people running a business, because I notice when I reflect on what we've done over time, one of the things that I think is most powerful is what we just talked about. We haven't changed who we are to grow.
No.
We're not, oh, well, you should do this, and then I join your team. No, you're not, you know what I mean? And so it's, we actually had this conversation, and you'll recall it once I share it. You're like, well, I don't know if they're a good culture fit. And I said, Todd, our culture has to be so strong that they become a culture fit or they weed themselves out. But and I believe that our mission should be to change lives. And we are now, and I think that's so huge. 9 people or 7 people at the gym last night, that's having an impact.
Yes.
So I think from a business standpoint is knowing who you are and knowing who you aren't, and then living in who you are and being okay with knowing it might not be for everybody.
Absolutely. Amen. And I feel like that's what exactly happened to me. Understand who I am.
Yeah.
Understand who I'm not, and just living out every day the way he wants me to live.
Amen. I love it. All right. Well, we're going to jump off here in just a moment. I want to leave you with one thing. You're awesome.
You are awesome.
Well, I love you.
I love you, man.
It feels like we should kiss now.
No, we can hug though.
Brother, man, I appreciate you so much.
Yeah, I appreciate
love
man.
you, and I love your wife, and I love your family, and I'm just
have her on. She'll blow your mind.
Let's do it. I'm just grateful for you, honestly.
Yeah, me
Thank
too.
you.
Amen.
All right, guys. Peace. Thanks for tuning in. Check us out on iTunes, TapTunes, Flip Flop, wherever the hell you find podcasts. Go find it. And yes, I swear beneath the cross. Now I feel bad, but I'm not a preacher. I am who God made me, and this is just how I spread His word, I guess. So Heath Evans also told me what's in comes out. So once you heal your heart, you'll swear less. I'm like, wow. Peace, everybody.
And hair grease.
You're listening to the Thoroughbred Podcast, an elite business leadership podcast.